Okay, let's dive into a really surprising idea. What if everything you thought about getting rich, like, needing to work crazy hard or getting lucky or maybe stepping on other people to get ahead, what if that wasn't actually the main thing?
Right.
What if instead getting rich was about following an exact science?
That is a bold claim, yeah. Especially when you consider the source material we're unpacking today. We're looking at a book from, wow, over a century ago called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Hmm.
This book was kind of, out of the spotlight for a long time, but it makes some pretty strong claims about exactly how wealth is acquired.
Right. And the core idea, like you said, isn't just that there are principles, but that there's a step-by-step, almost formulaic method, what Wattles calls a certain way.
Fair way, yeah.
And he says if you follow this certain way, getting rich isn't maybe, possibly going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's as certain as basic math.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 plus 2 will always equal 4, and doing this certain way will always make you rich. Is that really what he's saying?
That's exactly the level of certainty he puts on it. So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack those specific principles that Wattles lays out. We want to understand what he means by this science and see how his very specific claims stack up. And just using the information he provides in the text, we want to think about how this could possibly apply to your world today, listener.
So is it really just about changing how you think and acting in this super specific, certain way? Can't actually be that straightforward. Let's jump in and see what Wattles claims is the big secret here.
Absolutely. And the very first kind of radical idea Wattles hits you with is this. He asserts that getting rich isn't just a desirable thing or something only for the lucky few,
Okay.
but that it is your absolute right.
Whoa, hang on. You're right. That feels like a massive shift from just something I might, hope for or work towards. Why does he frame it as a right? What's his reasoning in the book?
Well, he makes a very fundamental argument. Wattles claims you simply cannot live a truly complete or successful life, and by that he means full development in mind, body, and soul, unless you have the financial means to be rich.
Rich. Not just comfortable, but actually rich.
Rich. He argues that to fully develop your talents, to cultivate your soul, you need access to and the ability to use a lot of things.
Things. Okay, what kind of things does he mean? Like material stuff?
Well, yes, but also experiences and resources enabled by money. Think about it this way, as Wattles explains. To develop your mind, right, you need resources like books.
Sure.
Maybe opportunities for travel to see different parts of the world, learn from other cultures. You need the ability to connect with interesting, knowledgeable people.
Intellectual companionship.
Exactly. And to experience art, music, beauty in various forms. All these things enrich your mental life.
Okay, that makes sense. You need resources to learn and grow mentally. Can't argue with that.
Right. And then, to live fully physically, you need good quality food to nourish your body, comfortable and safe shelter, plenty of rest.
Basic needs.
Basic needs, but also opportunities for healthy recreation and leisure, not just being worn down by endless, difficult toil. Poverty often limits access to these things being fully met.
Okay, body and mind, covered. What about the soul? How does money connect to developing your soul, according to him?
Well, Wattles argues that to live fully in soul, you need love, of course. But love, at its highest expression, often involves the ability to give benefits to those you care about.
Like helping people out.
Exactly. Uplifting them, helping them materially. And this requires means. You can't really express generous impulses if you have absolutely nothing to give or share. Unexpressed possibility, he says, leads to unsatisfied desire. That inner yearning we feel to learn something new, to create something, to travel, to help someone out, that's possibility-seeking expression.
And in our society, getting almost all of those things you just mentioned, the books, the travel, healthy food, comfortable homes, helping others in material ways, they all require money.
Exactly. That's Wattles' core point in this section. Because society is structured this way, where money is the medium of exchange for accessing these crucial resources and tools for personal growth.
Right.
Having the financial means, being rich, becomes fundamental to human advancement and becoming everything you are capable of being. You need money to buy the tools and access the experiences that allow you to fully express your potential, mind, body, and soul.
So according to Wattles, wanting to be rich isn't about being selfish or greedy for just piles of money or stuff. It's more about desiring the ability to live a richer, fuller life in terms of experiences, knowledge, growth, and even helping others.
That's exactly how he frames it. He directly links the desire for riches to the inherent human drive to realize our innate possibilities to fully become who we are meant to be. He's essentially saying that the yearning for more money is often, at its root, the life force within you seeking greater expression. Poverty, he argues, doesn't just make life hard. It actively denies the expression of these vital possibilities across all parts of your being.
Wow. That really does challenge a lot of conventional ideas, doesn't it? We're often taught that there's something humble or even virtuous about being poor, or that focusing on money is, materialistic in a bad way.
Waddles directly confronts that. He says that making the most of yourself, developing all your potential by getting rich, is actually the greatest service you can perform for both God and humanity.
The greatest service by getting rich.
Yes. Because, he argues, you can only give your very best to the world, contribute your unique talents and abilities to the fullest, if you have had the means to develop yourself to your highest possible potential. And that, in this world, requires financial means.
Okay, that's a powerful premise. It's my right to be rich so I can live fully and contribute more. But then comes the next part, the really striking claim, that getting rich is an exact science. Not a philosophy, not a theory, but a science, like chemistry or physics.
He is absolutely uncompromising on this point. Waddle states it is an exact science governed by specific laws just like algebra or arithmetic.
Okay.
And he claims if you learn these laws and obey them, you will get rich. He even uses that phrase again with mathematical certainty.
Mathematical certainty.
Yeah.
There is absolute no doubt, no variation. It happens every single time without fail. That feels like an incredibly strong statement, like really strong.
That's precisely the level of certainty he claims for his method. He observes that the ownership of money and property doesn't come from simply wishing for it, or from hard work alone, or even special talent.
Yeah, we all know people like that.
Exactly. He says it comes from doing things in a certain way. He looks at people who've become rich, and he asserts that, whether they consciously realize it or not, they are performing their actions in this specific certain way. And conversely, those who don't follow this certain way, no matter how much effort they put in, how intelligent they are, or how naturally gifted, they tend to remain poor.
So the key isn't what specific job you do or what business you're in, but how you go about doing it. The method, not just the activity.
That's exactly his conclusion. He provides several examples in the book to illustrate this. He says it's not primarily about your environment.
Like where you live.
Yeah, because you see rich and poor people living side by side in the same towns, sometimes even working in the same industries or businesses.
Right.
It's not solely about talent. Lots of incredibly talented individuals struggle financially, while others with seemingly less natural ability accumulate wealth.
We see that all the time.
Right. It's not just about being thrifty or saving money. He notes that many people who are extremely penurious, who pinch every penny, remain poor, while free-spending individuals sometimes get rich.
Interesting. And he even says it's not necessarily about doing something totally unique that no one else is doing.
Right. He points out that often you'll see two people in the same business doing very similar tasks, maybe with similar levels of effort and talent.
Yeah.
But one person succeeds spectacularly and becomes rich, while the other fails or barely gets by. Given all these observations, it's not just environment, not just talent, not just saving, not just the specific task. Waddles concludes that the decisive factor must be this certain way of doing things.
Okay, so based on his observations, he reasons that if you adopt this certain way, then like causes will produce like effects. Doing things this way will guarantee riches, just as surely as, I don't know, mixing baking soda and vinegar always causes fizzing.
That's his logical leap, yeah. Establishing it as an exact science. The certain way is the specific set of actions and mental attitudes that, when combined, reliably produce wealth, according to him.
But if it's truly that simple, like a formula you can just follow, why isn't everyone doing it? What is this certain way then? And does he address things that might seem like barriers, like what if you don't have the right skills or something?
He does. He clarifies up front that the difficulty isn't about needing some extraordinary natural ability. He believes anyone with average intelligence enough to read and understand his book can learn and apply this science.
Okay.
And while being in a suitable location or business helps, it's also not the primary barrier. If one person in your town or industry can get rich, he says, so can you.
Okay, but what about opportunity? A lot of people feel like opportunity is unfair. Like it's all taken up or controlled by a few people at the top. Does he talk about that?
He tackles that head on, yeah. It's one of the first myths he addresses. Waddle strongly asserts that no individual is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from them or completely monopolized by a wealthy few.
Now, wait a second. He wrote this book around 1910, right?
Yep.
That was the era of, like, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, massive industrial trusts, huge monopolies controlling vast parts of the economy, and very visible wealth inequality. How could he possibly argue that opportunity wasn't monopolized back then, let alone that it isn't a factor keeping people poor? That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, and that's a sharp observation. He addresses it by saying that while you might be shut out of specific established lines of business, like you couldn't just easily step in and take over a massive railroad system dominated by figures like J.J. Hill at that time.
Right, probably not.
Opportunity itself is constantly shifting and changing. He describes it like a tide that sets in different directions based on the evolving needs and advancements of society.
So he's saying, don't try to compete directly where things are already locked down by giants, but look for the new emerging areas, like where the tide is coming in.
Exactly. He used examples from his time, like the relatively new field of electric railways or the coming age of air travel, as vast new frontiers of opportunity.
Oh, okay.
He even suggests a factory worker who couldn't dream of owning the steel plant he worked in could still find immense opportunity by buying a small piece of land and doing intensive cultivation, which he saw as a very promising area then. Agriculture was big.
So his perspective is that opportunity isn't a fixed pie that's shrinking. It's more like a constantly expanding or shifting landscape, and you just need to look for where the new growth is happening.
That's his interpretation of opportunity, yes.
Yeah.
And he applies this even to the working class of his day. He argues that workers aren't kept down by masters or trust primarily because opportunity is gone.
Not because.
He claims they remain in their situation as a class because they don't adopt and practice the certain way as individuals. He suggests they could collectively change things by forming co-ops or through political action, even referencing examples like workers in Belgium. But his core focus remains on the individual's power to rise, regardless of the class or systemic situation, if they follow his science.
Okay, this feels like a point that might be hard for some people to accept today, just as it might have been back then. Is he really saying that poverty is solely the result of an individual's actions or mindset, and not at all due to systemic barriers, inequality, or being born into extreme disadvantage? That feels harsh.
Waddle's perspective, as presented in the book, is intensely focused on the power and agency of the individual. His science is about personal transformation and action. He argues that the fundamental law of wealth acquisition is the same for every single person, regardless of their current class or circumstances.
So the law applies equally.
That's his view. While acknowledging societal structures exist, his solution is not systemic reform first, but individual application of his principles. He believes the individual has the power to transcend their environment by adopting the certain way.
So for someone born into really difficult circumstances, his answer would be, the system isn't what's keeping you poor, it's your lack of applying this individual method.
That's the logical implication of his argument, yeah. He places the power for change firmly in the individual's hands by teaching them the certain way. And this brings us to a foundational concept that underpins his entire system and his view that opportunity isn't limited. The concept of infinite supply.
Infinite supply, meaning there's literally enough wealth, resources, and opportunity for everyone on the planet to be rich. Like actually everyone.
That's exactly what he claims. Waddle states very clearly and repeatedly that no one is poor because nature is poor or because there isn't enough wealth or resources to go around. He believes there's more than enough for everyone to live luxuriously.
He gives some striking examples of this in the book, doesn't he? Like about building materials.
He does. He points to things like the sheer amount of building material in the United States, claiming there's enough to build a capital-sized palace for every single family if needed.
Wow.
He talks about the vast amount of land, saying even under intensive cultivation, there's enough land to feed and clothe everyone on Earth luxuriously.
Those are hard numbers to argue with, but it still feels like there's a gap between the potential supply and the actual wealth distribution we see.
And that's where his concept goes beyond the physical stuff we see. Waddles explains that the visible supply is only a small part of the picture. The invisible supply, he argues, is truly inexhaustible.
The invisible supply.
Yeah. He postulates that everything in the universe, everything we see and experience, is made from one original, formless substance. He describes this as the raw material of all things.
Formless substance. Okay, that sounds abstract, like a universal intelligent dough or energy field that everything comes from. Is that kind of what he means?
That's a pretty good, simple way to think about it, yeah. He uses various terms: formless stuff, original substance, or thinking substance. He claims this substance permeates, fills, and exists in the spaces between everything in the universe.
Okay.
And this substance isn't just sitting there. It's alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms, more things. He says even if all the gold and silver in the earth were used up, if humanity needed more, it would be produced from this formless substance.
So there's this endless potential everywhere, this intelligent, creative stuff.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into me as an individual actually getting tangible things, actually getting rich? What's the connection?
This is where Waddles introduces the absolute first principle of his science, the core mechanism, thought. He asserts that thought is the only power that can produce tangible riches from this formless substance.
The only power. Just thinking.
He claims this thinking substance is intelligent and it responds to thought. It takes the form of whatever thought is impressed upon it.
So if this substance thinks something, that thing eventually appears.
Yes. He uses the analogy of the universe being formed from thought. The thought of a moving universe caused planets to appear and move. Or the thought of an oak tree in the substance eventually leads to the existence of an oak tree, usually through established processes of growth.
Right, seeds and soil.
But the origin is the thought in the substance.
And where do I fit into this creative process?
Waddles claims that man is a thinking center, capable of original thought. And critically, man has the ability to communicate his thought, his mental image, to this original thinking substance.
Communicate my thought.
How?
By impressing his thought upon it, man can cause the creation of the thing he thinks about.
So the substance itself is intelligent and creative, and it responds to thought. And my thought, coming from me, can somehow impress itself onto this universal substance and cause something I'm thinking about to be created.
That sounds like magic.
It might sound like that, but he frames it as science. That's the fundamental mechanism, according to Waddles. He distills this into 3 core statements that he says are essential truths you must accept.
Okay, what are they?
1. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe.
Okay, the universal stuff. Got it.
2. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought.
Thought creates form. Okay.
And 3. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created.
Man can use thought to create. Wow. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. It's a huge concept.
Yeah.
And he says you have to accept these 3 statements, this whole idea of a thinking substance responding to your thoughts based purely on faith at first. Like, just believe it.
Yes, he's very direct about this in the book. He says you have to accept them as true on faith, just like you might accept a scientific principle, say from Marconi, about how electricity works, without fully understanding the physics yourself. You accept his word and then test it by acting according to it without fear or hesitation. Waddles says his strongest proof is simply the practical experiment. If you follow his instructions, you will get rich, and that will prove the principles are true.
So the instruction is, don't try to understand why it works or how the thought gets from your head to the universal substance. Just believe that it does and follow the steps. That requires a leap.
It does. And he gives a very strong warning here. You must avoid dwelling on conflicting ideas or theories from other sources, other books, lectures, religious teachings, or even conversations that teach contrary concepts.
Why? Because they'll confuse you.
Because, he says, doubt is absolutely fatal to the process. You can't impress a clear thought with faith and purpose if you're constantly entertaining ideas that say it's impossible or works a different way. It muddies the signal, essentially.
Okay, so to make this science work, you have to actively shield your mind from conflicting ideas and just fully commit to his principles on faith. And he adds that to do things in a certain way, you first have to think in a certain way.
Yes, the action flows from the thought. Thinking in the certain way means thinking truth, regardless of what appearances might suggest.
Thinking truth. What does that mean practically?
For example, it means actively holding the thought of abundance and riches even when you're surrounded by poverty, or holding the thought of health even when you see sickness around you, or maybe feel unwell.
Okay, that sounds really hard.
Waddles admits this is laborious. It takes real mental effort, far more than just reacting to the world as it appears.
Yeah, looking at your bank account when it's low and thinking I am rich or abundance is flowing definitely doesn't feel easy or natural at first. It feels like lying to yourself.
It requires using your willpower not on external things, but upon yourself. You have to use your will to command your attention and hold your mind on the thought of truth, the thought of what you want, and that it's possible and coming.
So willpower is for self-control.
Exactly. He claims that anyone who acquires this power to control their thoughts and hold a consistent mental attitude becomes a mastermind who can overcome seeming obstacles and get what they want. It all starts with truly grasping and accepting the basic fact of the thinking substance and its direct, infallible response to thought.
Okay, so step 1 is accept the premise of the thinking substance and thought power on faith. Step 2 involves training your mind to think truth, using will to focus on abundance, regardless of appearances. What else is crucial for building this mindset? This foundation seems pretty demanding.
A major emphasized component is connecting with the fundamental desire for increase that Roddle says is inherent in the formless substance itself.
Increase, like growth.
Yeah. He explains that intelligent substance, being alive and conscious, has a fundamental desire for more life. Just like a seed naturally grows and produces more seeds, or a tree strives to grow larger and produce more fruit.
Oh.
The entire universe, being made of this substance, is driven towards increase, expansion, more.
So the universe itself, the underlying reality, wants things to expand, grow, have more life, more intelligence, more consciousness. It's not static.
Exactly. And this applies to intelligence and consciousness as well, the desire to learn more facts, acquire more skills, cultivate more talents. Waddles then connects this universal drive back to the individual. He argues that to know more, to do more, and to be more, we must have more things and resources to use. Therefore, he says, the desire for riches within us isn't some base, selfish urge.
Which is how it's often painted.
Right. But he says it's really just this universal capacity for larger life-seeking fulfillment through us. He sees it as the very life principle within you, striving for fuller expression. He uses the analogy of music a child feels inside them that seeks expression through learning and playing the piano. You need the piano, the lessons, the resources.
That's a beautiful and very different perspective on wanting wealth. It's not a negative thing, but a fundamental, even divine impulse-seeking expression.
According to Waddles, yes. He goes even further, saying it is the desire of God that you should get rich.
Whoa, okay.
Why? His reasoning is that God, or the universe, or whatever term you prefer for the source, can express itself more fully, more effectively through you if you have ample means, plenty of things to use to develop and express yourself completely. He claims nature is fundamentally friendly to your plans for advancement, and the universe wants you to have everything you want.
Everything.
Provided it's for the purpose of increasing life. More life for you, and ultimately, more life expressed in the universe.
Okay, that really pushes back against traditional ideas that equate spirituality with poverty or detachment from material things. But if everyone is trying to get rich through this creative power, doesn't that just lead to chaos and conflict as everyone tries to create things for themselves? Are we all just manifesting stuff independently?
This is an absolutely crucial point where Waddles draws a very important distinction. He states that your purpose in seeking riches must harmonize with the fundamental purpose in all, which is more life for all.
More life for all, not just me.
Right. He explains that intelligent substance, the creative power, will bring things to you. It will create things for you based on your thought and vision, but it will not take from others to give to you.
Ah, so the creative process isn't about rearranging the existing limited supply, like fighting over slices of pie. It's about baking more pies, adding to the total supply.
Precisely. Waddle says you must get rid of competitive thinking entirely. You are meant to create, not to compete for a limited slice of what already exists.
Create, don't compete.
Exactly. You are not to take advantage of anyone, cheat, or covet what belongs to others. You are to get what you want in such a way that, as a result of your actions and your getting rich, every other person you deal with will actually have more than they had before.
Okay, that sounds incredibly idealistic. Maybe even impossible in the real world. How does that work in practice? And what about those historical figures he mentioned earlier, like Rockefeller or Carnegie? They were definitely seen as fiercely competitive.
He addresses this by calling those competitive figures unconscious agents who, in their time, played a role in organizing large industries. But he says their methods weren't ideal.
Unconscious agents.
Yeah, like they were moved by larger forces without fully realizing the creative principle. However, he claims their competitive day is over. and that riches acquired through ruthless competition are never truly satisfying or permanently held through that method alone. He argues that competitive thinking, which is based on the false assumption of limited supply and trying to corner resources,
A fixed pie idea.
right, that actually destroys the connection to the creative power. You must know deep down that there is an inexhaustible supply and refuse to think in terms of limits or having to fight others for resources. Your mindset must be creative expansion, not competitive struggle.
Okay, so shift from a competitive mindset to a purely creative one, where you want increase for yourself and for everyone you interact with. That's a big mental shift. And a key element in maintaining this harmonious, creative relationship with a formless substance seems to be gratitude. You mentioned that.
Absolutely. Waddles is very clear. Gratitude is the primary way, the most direct channel to relate harmoniously to this formless intelligence, this source of all.
The primary way. More important than, say, just focusing really hard.
He presents it as the essential connector. You accept the three fundamental statements on faith. You believe that this substance is working to give you what you desire. And your way of connecting with it, of keeping that channel open, is through deep, consistent gratitude.
Why is gratitude so uniquely important in this system? What does it do?
He says many people remain poor because they lack gratitude. They receive good things, maybe a small improvement, a moment of luck, a helpful person, but they fail to acknowledge the source from which these things come,
They just take it for granted.
or attribute it solely to luck or their own effort without seeing the bigger picture. This lack of recognition, he argues, cuts off their connection to the source. The more profoundly and consistently grateful you are, the closer your mind lives to the source of wealth and creative power. And the more rapidly good things and the objects of your desire will flow towards you. He describes it almost like a law of gratitude, a principle of action and reaction.
Action and reaction.
Yeah. Your feeling of grateful praise, expressed sincerely, is a force that reaches the supreme. And the reaction from the substance is an immediate, strong movement towards you.
That reminds me of the idea from some spiritual texts about drawing closer to the divine, like draw near to God.
Waddles makes that explicit connection, using that biblical phrase, draw nigh unto God, and he will draw nigh unto you. He says that a strong, consistent habit of gratitude creates a strong, continuous reaction from the formless substance, keeping the movement of desired things always flowing in your direction. He points to the example of Jesus' attitude of gratitude, I thank thee, Father, as demonstrating this principle in action, accessing immense power.
Okay, so gratitude attracts things. Does cultivating gratitude change anything else about you or your mindset besides just drawing stuff towards you?
Crucially, yes. Gratitude, he says, is the one thing that prevents you from becoming dissatisfied with things as they are right now.
How so?
If you allow your mind to dwell on what you lack, on poverty, on feelings of inferiority, or on unpleasant circumstances around you, your mind takes the form of those negative things, and you will attract more of them. That's the flip side of thought creating form.
Right. Focus on lack, get more lack.
Exactly. But gratitude, by its nature, fixes your mind on the best things, the good things you already have, the good things coming to you. By attending to the best, your mind starts to take the form of the best, and the creative power working through you starts to make you into the image of what you are attending to and are grateful for.
So it helps shape your own thoughts and your own being, not just influence external circumstances. It changes you.
Exactly. And furthermore, gratitude is the direct parent of faith. He says this explicitly.
Gratitude leads to faith.
A mind that is deeply grateful for the good things it has received, and even for the good things it expects to receive, is a mind that is predisposed to faith. That feeling of confident expectation born from gratitude solidifies into unwavering faith.
Ah, because you've seen proof, kinda. Or you feel connected.
Something like that. And since faith is absolutely essential for this creative method to work, you must believe you are receiving. Cultivating gratitude is not optional. It's necessary to keep your faith strong. Without gratitude, faith weakens and eventually dies.
So the practice is to cultivate a habit of profound gratitude for every good thing, no matter how small. Like, really make it a daily thing.
Yes, consciously make it a habit. He even goes as far as to say you should include all things in your gratitude because they have all played a role in bringing you to this point where you can understand and apply this science.
Even the bad stuff, or the annoying people.
He argues you shouldn't waste time criticizing or condemning systems or people, even those who seem to operate competitively, because their actions, perhaps unconsciously, have helped arrange the very channels and transmission lines through which your riches will come.
That's a challenging perspective. Be grateful for the obstacles.
Be grateful for the whole tapestry, essentially. By being grateful for everything and everyone, you bring yourself into a harmonious relation with the good that is in everything, and this causes all good things to move towards you. It's about aligning with the flow of good.
Okay, so think truth, cultivate gratitude, embrace the creative mindset over the competitive one. That's the foundation. But how does this actually manifest in getting specific things? Like, how do I use thought to, say, get that house I envisioned or start that specific business I want? It still feels a bit abstract.
Right. This is where Waddles moves from the foundational mindset to the practical application of thought in the certain way,
Yeah.
forming and holding the
The
visions.
vision, okay.
He says that to effectively impress the formless substance and cause it to work for you, you need to have a clear, definite mental picture of exactly what you want to have, to do, or to become. Vague desires for more money or success aren't enough. They're too fuzzy.
You need to see it in detail. Like picturing the specific house, the color of the walls, the garden, the car in the driveway, the office layout, the kind of work you're doing day to day. That's specific.
Yes, exactly that. The clearer, the better. He uses the story of a poor man living in a rented cottage. The man started small, desiring a rug and a better stove, held the vision, acted with faith, and got them.
Okay.
This experience showed him he could get things by thought and faith. So he then dared to desire a whole house and proceeded to plan it out in minute detail in his mind, seeing it as it would look when completed. He held that clear picture constantly.
So the key is getting that picture fixed clearly in your mind, making it real mentally first.
Yes, and holding it there continually. Waddles compares it to a sailor keeping the image of his destination port fixed in his mind, or a steersman keeping his eye on the compass.
Okay.
He says you don't need complicated, forceful concentration exercises. If you want something badly enough, the intensity of your desire naturally helps you hold the thought. And the clearer and more detailed your picture is, and the more you dwell on the delightful aspects of having it, the stronger your desire will become, making it easier to hold the vision.
But he stresses that this isn't just passive daydreaming, right? It's not just sitting around visualizing.
Absolutely not. That's a crucial distinction. That clear vision alone isn't sufficient. It must be combined with two other things: a determined purpose to realize it,
Purpose. Okay.
and an invincible, unwavering faith that you're going to get it, that it is already yours, in a sense, and is at hand, meaning it's moving towards you and you are moving towards it.
Think that it's already happening.
Yes, he instructs you to mentally live in that new house, in that improved environment now. Use the things you desire in your imagination. Take the mental attitude of ownership. Feel that it is already yours and hold on to that feeling without wavering.
And this links back to gratitude again, doesn't it? You have to be thankful for it now, even before it appears physically. Thankful for the imaginary house.
Yes. Waddles says this sincere, heartfelt thanks for the things you only currently possess in your imagination is the true form of faith. It's believing you have received and expressing gratitude for it as if it were already a physical reality.
So it's not asking for it, it's receiving it mentally and being thankful.
Exactly. He distinguishes this from traditional oral prayer, where you keep asking God over and over. He says God already knows what you want. The scientific prayer, in his system, is to intelligently formulate your desires into a clear, coherent vision, and then impress this whole desire onto the formless substance by holding that vision with unshakable purpose and steadfast faith.
So praying without ceasing isn't constantly asking out loud, but constantly holding the vision with unwavering purpose and faith and expressing gratitude for it as if it's already done. That's the mental work.
That's exactly his interpretation. He says, the answer to your prayer or the fulfillment of your desire comes according to the faith you have while you are working, not just while you are speaking words.
While you're working, so action is involved.
Yes, we'll get to that. But mentally, once you form that clear vision, you can state it verbally as a prayer if it helps fix it, but from that moment on, you must receive it in your mind. Live in that imaginary environment. Plan your life confidently as if those things are on their way, and think and speak about your situation in terms of present ownership.
He says the difference between a scientist applying this and just a dreamer is the application of faith and purpose to the imagination.
Exactly.
And this mental work, holding the vision with faith and purpose, leads to the next critical element, the proper use of your will, which you mentioned is only used on yourself.
Yes, and this is another point where his teaching differs significantly from how many people think about using willpower or mental influence. Waddles states very emphatically that the proper use of your will in this science of getting rich is not to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself.
Not to try and force circumstances to change or make other people do what you want, even if you think it's for the best.
Absolutely not. He calls it wrong and counterproductive. He says it's fundamentally wrong to use your mental power to coerce or control others, even if you think it's for their own good. He views it as a form of mental slavery or robbery.
Strong words.
Very. And, he adds, there's no need or value in trying to compel God or some stubborn, resistant universal force. Remember, according to his principles, the formless substance is friendly and inherently wants to give you what you want for your greater life. Trying to force it with your will is not only wrong ethically within his framework, but also foolish, useless, and irreverent.
Okay, so if I can't use my willpower to influence things outside me or other people or even the universe itself, where am I supposed to direct it? What is it for?
Only upon yourself. You are to use your willpower to compel yourself to think in the certain way and to do things in the certain way.
Ah,
You use your will to hold yourself to the right course of action and thought, to keep your mind working according to the principles of this science. It's about mental discipline.
so the will is primarily an instrument of self-discipline and focus, ensuring I stick to the program of thinking and acting as the science requires, keeping myself on track.
Precisely. It's about maintaining that steady, continuous faith and purpose. When you use your will in this way to consistently hold your vision with faith and purpose, you are only making positive, creative impressions upon the formless substance. This continuous positive impression accelerates the process of things coming towards you. You're not sending mixed signals.
And what happens when you do this consistently, when the impression is clear and steady?
Your clear vision, held with unwavering faith and determined purpose, is taken up by the formless substance. Waddell says it permeates the entire universe and sets everything, animate things, inanimate things, and even things not yet created moving towards the realization of your vision.
Sets everything moving.
Wow. He even suggests it influences the minds of people, unconsciously guiding them to do the things necessary to help fulfill your desires.
That's a pretty powerful idea, that my focused thought, by impressing this substance, could unconsciously influence others to assist me, without me even trying to directly influence them.
That's his claim, but Waddles gives a serious warning here, too. He says that doubt or unbelief, allowing fear or negative thoughts to creep in, sends a negative or conflicting impression. This, he says, starts currents moving away from you, neutralizing the creative process.
So doubt literally pushes things away.
According to his model, yes. This is why, he claims, most people who hear about these ideas and try them eventually fail. They can't maintain consistent faith and purpose. He reiterates, all the promises are unto them that believe, and unto them only.
So guarding your thoughts, protecting your mental state from negativity and doubts is absolutely critical, and this is where the self-directed will comes in. Using will to choose what I focus on.
Exactly. Waddles instructs you to use your willpower to command your attention. Do not study poverty, study wealth and abundance. Do not study disease, study health. Don't focus on lack or problems. Focus on the opposites, on what you want and the truth of abundance. He says focusing on the negatives only perpetuates them in your own life and impresses them onto the substance.
And he has a very distinct perspective on how to help others who are struggling financially or living in poverty. It's not traditional charity, is it?
No, it's quite different. He argues that you should not try to eradicate poverty by methods like charity or by immersing yourself in studying the miseries of the poor.
Why not? That seems counterintuitive.
While those impulses might come from a good place, he claims charity tends to perpetuate dependence. And focusing on misery only impresses more misery onto your own mind and the collective substance. Instead, he says, you help the poor most effectively by getting wealth pictures into their minds.
Wealth pictures, how do you do that?
The best way, he says, is by demonstrating the way yourself, by getting rich creatively and righteously, following the science. Become a living example.
So his argument is that being a living example of someone who became rich using this creative method is the most powerful way to inspire and show others the possibility, more powerful than handouts.
That's precisely his point. He claims the creative rich, those who acquire wealth by this method that gives increase to all, open the way and create opportunities for thousands. In contrast, he argues, the competitive rich who operate on a model of taking and limitation keep others down. Your role, according to Waddles, is to inspire others to rise by showing them it's possible through your own example. He strongly advises against letting your mind dwell on images of poverty, suffering, or social ills, as this not only harms your own progress, but, he believes, contributes to their continued existence by imprinting those negatives. Use your willpower to keep your mind fixed on your vision of wealth with unwavering faith and purpose, and refuse to give attention to thoughts or images of poverty.
And related to that, he advises minimizing exposure to anything that promotes doubt or negativity, even seemingly helpful things like analyzing social problems or reading pessimistic news. He's pretty strict about that.
Yes. He says you cannot maintain a clear vision and a state of faith if your attention is constantly being pulled to opposing pictures or negative information, whether external or in your own mind.
Like, don't dwell on past failures.
Exactly. He advises against dwelling on past financial difficulties or the poverty of your parents or any hardships in your early life, as this mentally associates you with poverty. He says to let the dead bury their dead and put poverty completely behind you. Focus forward.
He also cautions against getting distracted by conflicting theories or pessimistic philosophies, right? Like, don't read other self-help books while doing this.
Absolutely. He says once you have accepted his theory, Waddles, do not give heed to conflicting theories, whether they are end-of-world prophecies, pessimistic philosophies, or critical social analyses.
Why not?
He argues that the world is not getting worse, it is becoming. It is growing richer and moving towards a greater good, towards God. Seeming evils, he believes, are just undeveloped aspects. Studying negatives, he claims, only prolongs their existence.
So the focus should always be on the growth and potential, the becoming, not the problem.
Yes. Interest yourself in the world becoming rich, in the greater wealth in life it is growing into, rather than the poverty or difficulty it is growing out of. And, he repeats, the best way you can help the world in this process is by getting rich yourself, creatively.
Because getting rich creatively helps everyone.
That's his argument. He argues that becoming truly rich is the most noble aim because it encompasses all other good things: health, knowledge, personal greatness, domestic happiness, and the ability to serve others effectively. Only the creative rich, he claims, are free from the degrading aspects of competitive struggle. Use your will to keep your attention fixed on your wealth picture and exclude anything that dims it. See the underlying truth. There is only wealth, potential, and unfolding, and seeming poverty is just undeveloped potential.
And he is very specific about how you should spend your time studying this. He pretty much says to stick to this book exclusively for a while, doesn't he?
He is quite prescriptive there, yeah. He believes this book lays out the scientific principles clearly and in sufficient detail. He says you don't need other books on the subject while you are working to establish your faith and apply this method.
Like learning math.
Exactly. He compares it to learning mathematics. There's usually one direct way to solve a problem, and studying other methods or theories simultaneously can cause confusion and doubt. He advises laying aside all other systems and theories to avoid wavering. Read this book every day, perhaps even commit key parts to memory.
And only after you get rich, then maybe look at other stuff.
That's his suggestion. He even cautions against getting into deep occult studies like theosophy or spiritualism while you are pursuing this goal, claiming they can cause mental cross-currents that lead to shipwreck. His advice is focused and singular. Solve your problem, which is to get rich using this method. Stay focused.
Okay, so the mental side is huge.
Sure.
Accept the premise, gratitude, clear vision, will, for self-discipline, guard your thoughts. But all of that mental work isn't enough on its own, is it? You mentioned earlier that you also need to act. This isn't just armchair manifestation.
Absolutely not. This is a critical point where Waddle says many people who explore metaphysical or new thought ideas fail. They rely solely on the power of thought. But Waddle's is very clear. Thought is the power that causes the creative forces to act, that impels the universe to bring things towards you. But personal action must supplement the thought.
So the thought puts things in motion at a universal level, but I still have to do something on my end to receive them. I have to meet the universe halfway.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. He uses the example of gold in the mountain. Your thought, faith, and purpose might set forces in motion to bring that gold towards you, perhaps by inspiring someone to mine it, transport it, and eventually offer it to you in some transaction.
Right.
But the gold won't magically mine itself or just appear in your pocket. Affairs will be ordered to bring it near, but your business and personal affairs must be arranged in such a way that you can rightly receive it when it comes.
Rightly receive it.
Turn.
Meaning not through charity or theft.
Correct. You receive it by giving something of value in exchange, giving every person more use value than the cash value you receive from them. That's a key part of the action.
Okay, so the scientific use of thought, holding the clear vision with faith and purpose, directs the creative forces. But how does that connect to my physical actions day to day?
Waddles explains that your faith and purpose impress your vision onto the formless substance, which, remember, desires more life. This vision then sets creative forces working. But these forces work through the established channels of nature, industry, and the social order.
Through normal means, not miracles.
Generally, yes, through regular channels. They are directed towards you, bringing the things you want closer. Your role is not to figure out how the creative process is unfolding or try to guide it magically.
Okay, so don't micromanage the universe.
Right. Your role is to retain your vision, stick to your purpose, and maintain your faith and gratitude, while also acting in a certain way in your physical world so that you can appropriate, receive, and put into place what is being brought to you. You get what is coming to you by giving others what is coming to them in exchange, that value exchange.
And he emphasizes that this action needs to happen now, not tomorrow, not next week.
This is another critical instruction. The action must be in the present, not in the past, dwelling on what you should have done, and not postponed until some future perfect moment when conditions are right.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. Don't delay action because you feel you're in the wrong business or environment. Don't get bogged down in trying to plan for every possible future emergency. Put your whole mind and energy into your present action. You can't act where you aren't physically located, right?
Makes sense.
You must act upon the people and things in your present environment now.
So instead of waiting for a change in environment or opportunity, maybe complaining about my current situation, I should use my current situation as the place where the action happens.
Exactly. Waddle says you must hold the vision of the better environment or business you desire with faith and purpose because that vision brings the new opportunities towards you. But you must ACT efficiently and powerfully in your present environment and business.
Even if I hate it.
Even if you don't like it, because this action moves you towards the new opportunities. Your current place is the tool, the means by which you get to the better place.
Okay.
If you're a wage earner wanting a different job, hold the clear vision of that desired job, but act with faith and purpose on the job you currently have. Your vision attracts the new job, and your efficient action in the present moves you into a position to receive it when it arrives.
That's very practical advice.
Yeah.
Start where you are, use what you have, do your best now. And he talks not just about taking action, but making each action efficient. What does he mean by efficient action?
Yes, this is key to ensuring every day contributes to your getting rich. He instructs you to use your thought as directed, do what you can where you are, and critically, do all that can be done where you are, each day.
All that can be done. Does that mean just working yourself to exhaustion, doing more tasks than anyone else? Burning out?
No, Waddles clarifies that it's not about working an unreasonable number of hours or rushing frantically. It's not about the quantity of actions necessarily. It's about the efficiency of each individual act you perform.
Quality over quantity.
You could say that. He states that an inefficient act is in itself a failure, regardless of how much effort you put into it. A life composed of many inefficient acts is destined for failure. Conversely, a life composed of all efficient acts must be a success, and specifically, a life of getting rich.
Okay, so the focus is on the quality and effectiveness of each small task, not just checking things off a list. But how do you make each act efficient, even something simple or routine, like washing the dishes or filing papers?
By putting all power into it. He reminds you that all power, the supreme, the formless substance, is working with you when you are in harmony with it and acting in a certain way. So, to make each act efficient, you must combine your physical action with your mental power.
Oh.
While doing the task, you hold your vision in mind, maybe not the detailed picture constantly, but the feeling, the purpose. And you infuse the action with the full power of your faith and purpose. You do that simple task as if it's part of the grand plan bringing your riches.
Ah, so the mental side and the physical action aren't separate steps. They're integrated into every moment of doing the dishes with purpose.
Exactly. This is where, he says, failures occur. People either just think without acting or they act mechanically without the directed thought, faith, and purpose. When you combine the mental power, holding the vision, faith, purpose, with your personal action, every single act, no matter how ordinary it seems, becomes strong, powerful, and successful in moving you toward your goal.
And this builds momentum.
Yes, success, he argues, is cumulative. Each successful, efficient act opens the way for more successes, making your progress towards getting rich rapid and certain. The desire for more life within you attracts more resources and opportunities to you as you demonstrate your capacity by acting efficiently. You prove you can handle more.
So the formula for daily success is do all that you can do today and do each separate thing efficiently by putting your vision, faith, and purpose into it. Bring your mind to your hands.
That sums up his instructions for action, yes. Now, how does this manifest in your interactions with other people? This leads to another key principle, conveying the impression of increase.
The impression of increase. Okay, what exactly does that mean in a practical sense? Like, how do I do that?
It means that in every interaction you have with others, whether it's a business transaction, a casual conversation, maybe sending an email, you must consciously or unconsciously convey the feeling, the impression that you are a person on the path of increase.
That you're going somewhere.
Yes, that you are advancing, and that everyone who deals with you will also receive an increase or benefit as a result of that interaction. You leave them feeling better off, more hopeful, more energized.
Why is giving this impression important? Is it like projecting confidence?
It's deeper than just confidence, though that's part of it. Waddles argues that increase is the fundamental desire of everyone. Everyone at some level seeks more life, more resources, more beauty, more knowledge, more opportunity.
Right, the universal urge.
It's the underlying urge of the formless intelligence working through them. The desire for wealth is simply this aspiration for a larger, fuller life. People are naturally drawn to those who they perceive as sources of increase, those who can help them gain more life.
So people sense it.
He believes so. By following the certain way, you are not only getting increase for yourself, but you are also positioned to give increase to everyone you interact with. You become a creative center, radiating this energy of increase.
Okay, so I need to be sure I'm on the path of increase myself, feeling that advancement, and then somehow let others feel that when they interact with me. How do I do that without sounding arrogant or boastful?
Good question. You must hold the unshakable faith that you are indeed in the way of increase. Let this faith infuse and inspire every action you take and every word you speak. Feel that you are getting rich, and feel with sincerity that in this process, you are also helping others get rich and conferring benefits upon them.
Okay.
Waddle says this creates a quiet assurance about you, not boasting, which he says comes from secret doubt or fear. Let your every act, every tone of voice, every look express this confidence in the idea of increase. Others will sense this opportunity for their own advancement and will be naturally attracted to you. They'll want to be around that energy.
And the most direct way to give this tangible increase to others in, say, business?
Waddles is specific. In every transaction, give a use value greater than the cash value you receive. This is crucial.
Give more value than you get paid for. How does that make you rich?
Because it ensures the other person benefits immensely from the exchange. You're contributing powerfully to their increase. Be proud of your ability to do this. This is what attracts customers to a business or opportunities to an individual, like magnets. By giving more in utility, service, or value than you take in money, you are directly contributing to the other person's increase. And the supreme power moves people towards you because you are a conduit for more life.
This leads to rapid business growth or unexpected opportunities, he says, and allows you to move into a more suitable vocation if you desire, because the new opportunities come to you.
Exactly. The key is to always maintain your clear vision of what you want and your faith and purpose to get it, while outwardly conveying this impression of being a person who is advancing and bringing increase to others through superior value.
But he again cautions against letting this lead to seeking power or dominion over others, right? Like, don't become a benevolent dictator.
Yes, he sees the desire for power and control over others as a dangerous temptation, a characteristic of the competitive mind that, he says, has been a curse throughout history. Think of kings, or maybe some business tycoons focused on dominance rather than increasing life for all. This is the direct opposite of the creative principle.
And the creative principle, the right way, is captured by that idea, what I want for myself, I want for everybody. Win-win.
That's how Waddles puts it, aligning with the idea of the golden rule. This principle must guide your actions on the creative plane. Seeking mastery over others, he warns, makes you vulnerable to being conquered by fate or environment yourself, and turns the process of getting rich into a matter of chance or speculation, not science. You fall off the scientific path.
He applies this concept of the advancing man who gives increase to everyone, not just to business owners, right? To professionals like doctors or teachers, and even wage earners.
Absolutely. He explains that a physician who adopts this science, holding a vision of themselves as a highly successful healer, working with faith and purpose, and connecting with the source of life, will be drawn towards success and come into contact with opportunities for phenomenal healing and prosperity. It applies to any profession. The scientific principle is the same. A clergyman who teaches the science of abundant life encompassing riches, health, greatness, love from the pulpit will attract a large, thriving congregation.
Because they're embodying it.
Exactly. He says the world needs preachers who can demonstrate the truth of their message by being rich, healthy, great, and beloved themselves, not just talk about it.
And a teacher who lives this way, inspiring faith and purpose in their students.
That teacher, by giving that impression of advancing life and possibility, will never lack students or opportunity. You can't help but give this impression if you are living and practicing the science yourself.
It just radiates off you.
That's the idea. Wattles claims that this combination of focused mental action, vision, faith, purpose, gratitude, and personal action, efficiency, impression of increase, more value given, is infallible for anyone who practices it steadily and perseveringly. Getting rich becomes mathematically certain, like the law of gravity, for those who apply it.
Infallible. Wow. What about the wage earner who feels stuck in a dead-end, low-paying job with no apparent opportunity for advancement? How does the advancing man concept apply there? That seems like the hardest case.
Wattles speaks directly to this. He says the wage earner must also form a clear vision of what they want to be, have, or do. They must act with faith and purpose in their current situation.
Even the crummy job.
Even the crummy job. This means doing all their work well and efficiently each day, putting the power of their purpose to get rich into everything they do, no matter how menial the task seems.
But not just to get a raise or please the boss, because that might not happen.
No, he emphasizes doing it for your own advancement, for the purpose of applying the science and becoming the advancing man or woman. You do this work, even the current job, so efficiently and effectively while holding your vision and purpose that you essentially become too big for your current place. You outgrow it internally first.
And how does that lead to getting rich? Does boss magically notice?
Maybe, but not necessarily. By embodying the advancing person, you attract attention. People are drawn to that energy of increase, that competence, that purpose. If there is no opportunity for advancement or wealth within your current job or company,
Then what?
Wattles guarantees that another opportunity will appear soon. He states that a power that never fails is constantly at work to present opportunities to the advancing person who is moving in obedience to this law.
A power. Like the universe rearranges itself.
Essentially, yes. Because you are striving for more life and expression, which is the desire of the formless substance, God, or the universal intelligence, must help you, because in helping you express more life, it is helping itself. You align with the cosmic purpose.
So external circumstances, like being in a declining industry or a rigid company structure, can't actually keep you down if you're applying the science correctly.
Wattles is firm on this. He believes that if you begin to act in a certain way, you will inevitably either escape your limiting circumstances or the circumstances themselves will change around you. He even argues that if a significant number of workers began practicing the science and acting in a certain way, they would become such a powerful, attractive force of increase that the trusts or companies they worked for would either have to change their practices fundamentally or go out of business, because all the dynamic, advancing people would be drawn elsewhere. Collective power through individual action.
And practicing this science also makes you better at recognizing opportunities when they appear. You see things others miss.
Yes, the thinking and acting in the certain way makes your mind sharp and receptive to opportunities. And, according to Wattles, the supreme power is also actively working to bring opportunities into your path.
So they come to you.
Yes. You don't wait to be the finished person in your vision. You take the opportunity that is presented now to be more than you are, which moves you towards your ultimate goal. He claims the constitution of the cosmos is such that all things are for the person applying the science, and everything works together for their good. There is no lack of opportunity for the advancing life.
Okay, so the system is pretty comprehensive. Mindset, action, interaction. But Wattles seems to anticipate that many people will scoff at his claims, especially the idea that systemic change isn't the prerequisite for individual wealth. That's a big one today.
He absolutely does. He knows many people believe that the system is inherently unfair, that wealth is limited, and that governments or economic structures must be completely reformed before the average person can get rich.
Right.
But Wattles argues the exact opposite. He insists that systems keep the masses poor precisely because the masses, as a group, do not think and act in a certain way.
So it's the thinking, not the system, that's the primary cause.
In his view, yes. If a significant number of people, or even the masses, began to practice this science, he believes the economic systems would have to change dramatically to accommodate their collective advancement. The system would follow the people.
So in his view, Individual change using the science is the catalyst for systemic change, rather than waiting for the system to change first. Bottom up, not top down.
That's his strong position. He argues that individuals can get rich under virtually any economic system by applying his scientific method. And furthermore, he believes that many individuals getting rich on the creator plane by this method that gives increase to all
The win-win method.
will naturally become agents of positive change, improving systems and opportunities for others. In contrast, he argues, the competitive rich make things worse for society, while the creative rich improve them. He sees the economic salvation of the masses coming from many individuals practicing this specific science.
And he mentions that when you truly enter the creative plane, you essentially rise above the limitations of external systems anyway. You're playing a different game.
Yes, he says you become like a citizen of another kingdom, operating by a different set of rules. However, he cautions that you must be extremely vigilant in maintaining your creative mindset.
Watch out for falling back.
Exactly. If you fall back into competitive thinking, even for a moment thinking about limited supply or trying to take from others or worrying about competitors, you lose your connection to the all-mind, to the creative power, and fall back onto the competitive plane where getting rich is uncertain and based on chance. You must instantly correct your thought back to the creative perspective. Stay creative.
Any other final pieces of advice or warnings he gives as you embark on this path? It sounds like there are pitfalls.
Several important ones, yeah. First, don't spend time worrying or planning for possible future emergencies, obstacles, or disasters unless they are directly relevant to the actions you need to take today.
Don't worry about things that might never happen.
Right. Meet difficulties as they arrive. He believes that every challenge carries within it the means for its own overcoming. He states that no combination of circumstances or external forces can defeat a person who is steadily applying this science. If you obey the law, he claims, failure is impossible.
Failure is impossible.
Yeah.
That's bold. So no anxious thought about economic downturns, panics, or unfavorable circumstances.
None, according to Wattles. He says they will either disappear or a clear way through them will appear for you. Closely related to this, he says, is guarding your speech.
What you say matters too.
Absolutely. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or anything in a discouraged, disheartened, or discouraging way. Never admit the possibility of failure, even in casual conversation.
Even if things look bad.
Especially then. Never say that times are hard for you. They may be hard for people operating on the competitive plane, but for you, who are operating on the creative plane, seemingly hard times for others are actually opportunities for you.
It sounds like you have to consciously train your language as well as your thought. Really watch your words.
Exactly. Train yourself to see the world as becoming, as constantly growing and advancing. See seeming evil or problems as simply things that are currently undeveloped. Always speak in terms of advancement, growth, and positive outcomes. Speaking negatively, he says, is like denying your faith and actually works against the process. It sends out that negative vibration.
Okay. And how should you deal with something that looks like a failure? If you've been working towards a specific goal using the science and it just doesn't happen, you don't get the job, the deal falls through.
Wattles has a specific perspective on this. He says you shouldn't feel disappointed by apparent failure because it is only apparent.
Only apparent. What does that mean? It feels pretty real when it happens.
It means, he instructs, you hold your faith, purpose, and gratitude firm and continue acting efficiently each day. If you don't get the specific thing you were working towards by a certain time, he claims it's because you are going to get something so much better that the seeming failure was actually a great success in disguise.
So if my specific plan doesn't work out, it just means the universe had something even bigger and better in mind for me, and I should just keep going.
That's his interpretation. He tells a story of a student applying this method who was working towards a specific business combination, which unexpectedly and inexplicably failed. The student, however, wasn't disappointed, remained grateful, and kept going in the certain way. Soon after, a much better opportunity arose. Wattles explains this as a higher mind, a mind that knew more than the student, intervening to prevent the lesser outcome so that the greater could manifest. Apparent failure in this context just means you didn't ask for enough, and if you stay on the path, a larger thing is coming. Trust the process.
That's a comforting thought, actually. He also offers reassurance for people who might feel they lack natural talent or ability, right? Like, I'm just not smart enough for this.
Yes, he stresses that you will not fail in this science for lack of talent. He believes that by simply going on in the certain way as he directs, you will naturally develop all the necessary talent and ability as it is needed.
It just comes to you.
The act of doing it develops it. Cultivating talent is simple, he claims. Like the rest of getting rich, it comes from acting in the certain way. Don't hesitate fearing you aren't skilled enough. Keep going, and the ability will be furnished to you when it's required.
Where does it come from?
He says the source of ability, the same power that worked through figures like Abraham Lincoln, is open to you, and you can draw upon the all-mind for wisdom and capability. Just go on in full faith.
And his final guidance seems to bring it all back to focusing on the core teaching in this book. Like, really buckle down with it.
He strongly advises making this book your constant companion. Study it, reread it, master its ideas completely. While you are working to establish your faith and the principles, he suggests giving up many outside recreations or pleasures that might distract or expose you to conflicting ideas.
Really, give up fun stuff.
Temporarily, perhaps, to build focus. Absolutely avoid conflating theories from lectures, sermons, or other books on this subject.
Right.
Don't read pessimistic or critical literature. Don't get into arguments about his method with others.
Just immerse yourself.
Yes. Spend your leisure time contemplating your vision, practicing gratitude, and reading this book. He claims it contains everything you truly need to know to get rich by the scientific method.
So to quickly summarize Waddle's Science of Getting Rich, as he does in his own final chapter, bringing together these key elements like a checklist.
Yeah, it's a good way to recap. First, accept that there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and that thought in this substance creates the thing imaged. Recognize that man can form things in his thought and, by impressing this substance, can cause creation.
Okay, the foundation. Second, understand you must transition from a competitive mindset to a creative one, operating in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always seeking more life and is fundamentally creative. Create, don't compete.
Third, embrace gratitude as the essential tool for unifying your mind with this substance, receiving thoughts and impressions from it, and staying firmly on the creative plane. Constant gratitude.
Fourth, form a clear, definite mental image of exactly what you want to have, do, or become, and hold this vision constantly in your thoughts, coupled with deep and sincere gratitude that your desires are already being granted. Feel it now. Dedicate leisure time to frequent, joyful contemplation of your vision, maintaining unwavering faith and devout gratitude. This mental work impresses the formless, sets things in motion.
Fifth, understand that this creative energy works through established, natural channels, through growth processes, industry, and the social order. Normal life channels. What's in your vision comes through trade and commerce, typically.
Sixth, recognize that thought must be supplemented by personal action. You must act in a certain way to receive what is being brought to you. This means more than just filling your present place. It means becoming the advancing person. Action is key.
Seventh, maintain your fixed purpose to get rich through the realization of your vision. Let this purpose drive your actions. Know why you're doing it.
Eighth, do all that can possibly be done each day, today, performing each separate task in a highly efficient manner by infusing it with your faith and purpose. Quality action now. Ninth, in every interaction, give a use value greater than the cash value you receive, ensuring that every transaction contributes to more life and increase for the other person. Give more than you take.
10th, always hold the advancing thought and convey the impression of increase to everyone you meet, radiating confidence and the sense that you are moving forward and bringing good things. Be a source of upliftment.
And finally, Waddles concludes that anyone who practices these instructions steadily, perseveringly, and with sincerity will get rich. No maybe about it. He states that the riches they receive will be in exact proportion to the definiteness of their vision, the fixity of their purpose, the steadiness of their faith, and the depth of their gratitude.
It really is a very specific, almost step-by-step formula he presents, isn't it? It's not just vague positive thinking, but a system rooted in these distinct principles of thought, action, gratitude, all interacting with what he calls this underlying universal substance.
Yeah. It certainly challenges many common assumptions about how wealth is created and even, well, the nature of reality itself.
Yeah, that idea that everything is made of a thinking substance, and that our conscious thoughts, when combined with faith and purpose, can actually influence it to bring things into existence. That's a lot to process. It makes you think about the sheer power that might be sitting within our own minds, whether we fully grasp it or not.
It certainly raises some profound questions about our potential.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Wallace D. Waddle's The Science of Getting Rich. Lots to think about there.